morning, everybody. Today we have got with us Clive Evans from Yachting Financial Solutions, and we're going to have just a very general discussion about what people in yachting should be thinking about doing with their hard-earned money. And I've lined up a few specific questions, but we'll probably deviate from the script a little bit. So, good morning, Clive.
Good morning, Ian, and a wonderful introduction. Ian knows me well, folks. I always deviate. Sorry.
as do I generally. So let's kick off with some questions, and then we'll see if we end up going at a tangent. So a couple of topical ones at first to start with, Clive. What, if any, specific opportunities do you think the whole COVID-19 thing has brought that you would suggest might be capitalized on in some way by way of investment?
I'd like to preface what I'm about to say, because I think that the big opportunity for COVID-19, and certainly what I've found in the last 6 weeks, since I've been locked down here on my farm on the west coast of Ireland, is giving me time to think. And whilst that might not sound like an investment opportunity, it most certainly is, because it's an investment in yourself. Okay. Which is really what we're here to talk about, is people kind of looking at themselves and saying, what the hell am I trying to do? Okay. Yes, it's about money, but it's all about what are you trying to do with your life and where are you trying to go? So the first thing I'd suggest to you guys, this is probably the best opportunity you're going to have in some considerable time to sit and work out what it is that you really want to do, which includes your money, mostly your life as well. Once everything gets back to normal and ports are starting to open up now, you're going to be running around like blue-ass flies. You won't know what's hit you, and you won't have any time. So the time to kind of think and act and probably talk to somebody is now. Okay, that's the first.
I think that's a very pertinent point, because a lot of crew I talk to, especially the younger ones, they just haven't considered in any way really what they're going to do with all this money that they're going to be earning, which is way ahead of pretty much any of their peers, and a lot of them just sit on it without actually thinking about what they're really going to do with it. It's a very common issue. They haven't considered the incredible potential that they've got, especially at such a young age, and high disposable income.
I know we were going to touch on this later, but I think it's worth saying straight away, brilliant opportunity now to kind of get this into your head and do something or other, because you won't have some time. In terms of specific investment stuff, try this. The stock markets around the world are already recovering from a low, which tells us that we're in a low, okay, and it's a very good one. So whatever you invest in, this is probably the next 3 months or so could be some of the best opportunities you've got to buy into things cheaply. And frankly, you know what, Ian? It's not going to matter too much, is it? Can you see where I'm going? It's, if everything's cheap, then buy it. And we'll get on to some of the specific things and investment spread and things later on.
Especially in asset classes, or industries that are likely to recover quite quickly from this, because it's such an unprecedented event in modern times. It's not like a full-on financial disaster that we had in 2008, for example. There will be a lot of recovery from this. Okay, some people will struggle, and there will be some casualties along the way. But
I think it's interesting when you look at sectors, obviously, and we can major on that. But yes, this is. Come on, I've been in financial services for 40 years. I've seen market crashes of various kinds. Like when you've been around that long, you see it all more frequently than people think. And everybody panics and wants to get out. Actually, it's the best time to get in. Yeah. Warren Buffett, one of my great heroes, says, the time to get in when there's blood on the streets. So. Secondly, guys, it's a good time. I'm not here to give specific investment advice. It's a good time. It's a good time to think, and it's a good time to take action. Hang on.
Time to do something,
Yeah, those two things are probably the most important things you can do. Think and take action.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very salient points, I think. Definitely a good time to think about it before everything starts getting a bit chaotic again. And I mean, potentially, just steering away from finance for a second, things could possibly be even more chaotic than they normally are, because, you know, you've got owners who have been, you know, their plans have been delayed and they may be somewhat more impatient. And so, you know, depending on what does happen, you know, this season could potentially be even more manic than your average season, because owners are trying to squeeze the maximum out of it.
It's like everything you look at. People will, as soon as things open up, will try and take advantage of the window to do kind of a year's stuff in probably 3 to 4 months. It's going to happen in whatever you do. And yachting is just a part of that. You know, it's that kind of, oh, I want to get the benefit of my thing in this short amount of time. So it could be really quite interesting. The stats I've seen on, you know, what's the disruption, our crew being laid off and stuff, are very encouraging. You know, owners are clearly stepping up to the plate and saying, no, I value my people, I'm keeping them on, and I'm keeping the whole thing going. And I think that's brilliant. That's cool.
I've actually seen some contradictory statistics of that. I was actually I was quite surprised at the statistics that I saw that came from an extremely reputable source. I was quite surprised at the number of, let's just say, entities, whether they be owners, management companies or captains, that have been making the decisions, that had made quite significant reductions to the terms of the crew on board remarkably early on in this whole saga. But anyway, that's a little bit of a different issue.
Well, they will be the losers in the end, won't they?
They will. Very, very short-term thinking, I think. You know, especially as, you know, we're not talking about businesses per se here. We're talking about luxury toys, you know, that are owned by very wealthy people. So I thought it was rather short-sighted in some of the statistics that I saw. But
seriously, Ian, doesn't that reflect, in my view, of 25 years of dealing with nothing but people in yachting, is a kind of warped perception of value? If you go to the Monaco show, it's all about big, shiny, white things. It isn't anything to do with the people that make it work.
Which I think is that's a very interesting point, and one that I've spoken about quite a lot. You know, the quantifying real value is a very interesting subject.
Well, come on, you know, and we're digressing slightly, but I think, guys out there, you need to understand how valuable you are, you know, and take the appropriate action that we're going to kind of hopefully get you to do. Without you guys, this all comes to a shuddering halt, or does it? Because there's always more people dying to get in, and
there's always more people, and there's always more people to accept lower salaries and harsher conditions, etc.
And there will always be people around that are prepared to take advantage of people like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good people value good people. End
Indeed.
of.
Yep, absolutely.
End of.
Absolutely.
And guys, what we're trying to talk to you about, and you know, Ian's magic mantra as much as mine is, what we're trying to help you do is value yourself and make sure you get the best value out of what it is that you're doing for these people. It's a big, important thing to kind of think about this. Why am I really here? What am I trying to do? Not just for them, but for me.
Okay, just sticking with the current topic at the moment. One more question on that. When do you think the dust might settle on the economic impact of what's going on at the moment, and how severe do you think it might be?
Wrong guy. I'm whilst this says financial stuff, okay, we rely on experts to give us predictions and financial stuff and all the rest of it. Yep. And of course you'd expect that. You know, here I am sitting on a farm on the west coast of Ireland. Yes, I've got my fingers on every pulse. Anybody that tells you that's talking complete rubbish. We rely on people in London, New York, Frankfurt, the great places, to tell us what the hell's going on. Now, I'll tell you what they tell us. Okay. Yep. They tell us that there's good news already coming out of China. You know, that, guess what? It's already back on the road. So there's a prediction. Can you see where I'm getting at? You know, you kind of look about how far the rest of the world is behind China and go, how can this cycle carry on? Here in Ireland, for example, it looks like we might be out of lockdown August, something like that. And we took unprecedented action very early. So if you look at the yachting industry, yes, things are starting to open up. The rest of the world will open up and things will start to happen. What will happen on the economic cycle is some things will suffer and continue to suffer until they can really open up again. If you look at the restaurant and hotel industry, clearly it's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hospitality generally is going to be, hospitality travel are going to be very, very slow to recover probably.
Forget it for the end of the year. So that's going to be a bad sector. There's going to be other sectors that will do well. The important bit is, what's the recovery look like? Recoveries are normally like a V shape, if you like, kind of, you know, if you can see that, it kind of slides down and then it gets to the bottom and it goes bounce. And the key issue is you have to be invested at the bounce, because otherwise you miss it. Yep. Because once you think it's happened, it's already happened, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a bit like dropping a ball, you know. What we're looking at here might be a W-shaped thing. Can you see what I mean? There might be a bounce, a rise, a bounce, a rise.
Back down again, yeah.
Yeah. The key point being, some point over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, that'll be the bottom of the market, really. As long as you're investing over that period, you should be doing quite well. Did I answer the question? I hope so.
Yeah, that's good. If you were working on a yacht in your early 20s and looking for long-term growth, but could only invest in a single company, product or asset, what would it be and why?
Well, I wouldn't. I'm a great believer in diversification.
Diversity is critically important. But, you know, if it were just, if there was just one thing you could invest in, what would that be?
Well, let me give you a kind of a slightly sideways view on that. You see what I mean? You're saying, okay, 20 years from now, okay, nobody has a crystal ball. Okay. And looking back on 20 years, nobody had a crystal ball then either. Okay. Look back on 100 years, nobody had a crystal ball then. But here's a good example. If you'd have invested in Consolidated Edison, which is one of the biggest American power companies, if it's Edison, if you see what I mean, it's the original electric company.
Yep.
Okay. And if you'd invested in that 100 years ago, that would have rumbled through 100 years. It would have gone through the Great Depression, 2 world wars, God knows how many stock market corrections, through COVID-19. And do you think you'd still be making money?
Still there.
Still doing really well, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that taught us, Ian? Because think about it. In 1920, electricity was kind of a bit, hang on a minute, that's a bit cool and new.
It's new technology that stuck around and lasted forever.
Yeah. It's new technology that has longevity.
Yeah.
If you like. Can you see where I'm trying to go?
Yeah.
So if it was me today and I had to pick one thing, and I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I really like the look of blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 20 years ago, for example, if you'd invested in Amazon, you know, 20 years ago, we were right at the beginning of the tech bubble, and a lot of those things have done well. So we all know about Amazon, Netflix, Google, all these good things. What people have forgotten, there have been a whole lot that have fallen behind. You know, think of Blockbuster Video. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
They could have become Netflix, couldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm trying to go?
Yeah.
So you get it wrong. That's why diversity is the key. I like the look of blockchain technology. I'll tell you why. Because when you get to my ripe old age, you're always using things you don't understand. Mm-hmm. And a guy that was talking to us about this and how people could invest in it was kind of looking at my blank face on a talk call like this. He said, look, Clive, let me try and get it straight. Do you use the internet? I said, yeah, of course I do. I use it every day. And he said, do you know how it works? And I said, I haven't a bloody clue. And he said, blockchain technologies is going to be the same thing. In 20 years' time, everybody will be using it for all sorts of stuff, and people will still not know how it bloody works.
Yeah, but they probably won't even know they're using it.
Yeah. The trouble with all of this is, okay, here's the problem with investment, on my view, 40 years of doing this. People think it's going to work. That's a strange thing to say. Well, people think it'll do all the work for them. People think it's a silver bullet. People think investment is making things grow. Actually, real investment is defined, in my view, by a gentleman called Warren Buffett. And his mantra is, all investment is long-term investment. Mantra 2 is how long, people ask me how long I should hold an investment for. And I've said, as if I can, forever.
Forever, yeah.
And that's all about value, isn't it? Can you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
It isn't about a quick fix. It's about longevity. And if you read Warren's stuff, which I do, I have a lot of time for Mr. Buffett. He's an absolute...
Yeah, well, myself as well, a legend of a man.
Very,
very interesting guy.
And a super guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's, I mean, not just the fact that he's been hugely successful, but the man himself is quite an amazing person. His philosophy, his ethos, why he's done what he's done and the way he's done it. I mean, an absolutely fascinating man.
Yeah, guys out there, just Google thoughts of Warren Buffett, and
yeah, we'll just do some research on Warren Buffett, and that will, certainly very, very eye-opening.
But where I'm trying to go with that is, it's that kind of, hang on a minute, if we're talking about our friends out there getting out of yachting with a real life at some point or other in the future, the important thing to understand, guys, is it's clever investment won't make that happen. It's the amount of money you actually shovel away and save that will make it happen. That's what it is. It's, you could look at guys like me and guys in the city and whatever and say, yeah, I want you to help me with that. We might help you beat inflation. We might help you make a bit of a margin, but don't expect a silver bullet, because over a long period of time, that can't happen. Yeah. Does that make sense? Can you see where I'm trying to go, Colin?
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. You need to have the...
I've invested in this thing, I've been in it for 18 months and it doesn't seem to be working for me, so I want my money out.
Quelle surprise.
Nuts. And I haven't got very much, so it hasn't grown very much. Yeah. It can't.
Yeah. No, I think I did a very simple thing 3-4 years ago when I was just teaching myself how to get a bit better with Excel, and I came across a simple formula for calculating compound interest. So I just threw some numbers into it, and I noticed that obviously the higher the number you put in the first place, the quicker it all happens, but nothing really happens for about 7-8 years, and then the shape of the curve starts to change dramatically, and once you're at that sort of 15-year thing, the numbers are absolutely staggering. So for anyone who needs to see how investment might work for them, it's worth just doing a simple little experiment by using a simple formula in Excel, just to get an idea of the shape of the curve, basically.
Well, that ties in neatly to something that I know is on your agenda, so I'll throw it in now.
Okay.
If we're talking that 10 to 15 years is where money starts to really work, well, let's turn it on its head. 25 years plus of dealing with professional yachtsmen, my belief that for most people, that's the maximum amount of time they can spend in the industry before their brains blow up. I think the trouble with the industry so often is it's very seductive, and it's really good, and earning lots of money and having a brilliant time, but you have a sell-by date, guys.
Yeah, and the trouble especially if you're in full-time work throughout that period, definitely. If you're not on rotation, you're not taking breaks, you're on one of these contracts, where you get 30 days holiday a year, then you're not going to last forever, that's for sure.
So the 10 and 15-year thing, I think, is vital.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a real eye-opener that, when people see, and again, something that Warren Buffett frequently talks about, is the power of compounding over time. So it's a very useful thing just to do a minimal bit of research on, to you see where the numbers start to change very, very dramatically in your favor. Well, there's a lot of nasty surprises in this industry.
Ask him. He's been there and done it. He knows.
Yeah,
he really knows. So you're not in charge of that, okay? You are in charge of your time. So how are you using your time? You're using it to work, and you're using it therefore to earn money. So the other thing you can be control of is what you do with that money. And there's really only two things you can do. You can either spend it or save it. That's it.
Okay, let's move on to a couple more questions.
I'm sorry if I'm overrunning.
No, that's all right. What are your thoughts on Terry Smith and the remarkable success of his main fund?
Fundsmith. It's a wonderful title, isn't it? I mean, marvelous. You know, he's just launched well, last year he launched a different issue called Smithson.
Yeah, I invested in that as well.
Yeah. And we have holdings on behalf of clients in both of these things. They're good. I like Terry, and I have to hold my hand up. Have met the man.
Yeah.
He's an interesting character. First of all, if we talked about Warren Buffett earlier on, the model's a bit the same, isn't it?
A lot of similarity between him and Warren Buffett, definitely.
And if you look at Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway, how many major holdings has that business really got?
Yeah.
Because people forget Berkshire Hathaway is a company that owns companies. That's what it is. Okay. So it's a fund, effectively. And yeah, it's not got that many, but some of its stars are quite interesting. Terry Smith's fundamental is the same thing. He's investing in almost in intellectual property in a way. Yeah, it's intangible. It's a real deep kind of, that's not going to go away. So we have a small amount of holdings, which is the bit I don't like, if you see where I'm getting at. And I think it will be a wonderful part of somebody's portfolio. But the difficulty with any one asset manager is they come and go. I'll mention Neil Woodford.
And Neil Woodford, yeah.
5 years ago, we'd have both looked at him and said, there's a guy who really knows where he's at.
Yeah, and I was invested in Woodford as well and got out fairly early when things started going wrong. So, you know, only a minimal loss. But yeah, this is certainly a cautionary tale.
Yeah. Okay. And so no matter how good Terry is, you cannot predict future performance from past performance.
No, of course.
So yeah, good bloke. I would like that, but I would like to see, I love funds. I'm a great believer in diversification, and therefore, try this, if you own several funds, you're not keeping all your eggs in one basket, and you've got lots of different baskets. Yeah. If you've got a portfolio with 20 different investment funds in it, you probably got 2,000 different assets, which is got to be good news. Yeah.
No, diversifications. Yeah. Very, very, very important. Okay. Let's go back to our yacht crew in the early 20s again. We've possibly kind of covered this a little bit earlier on, but it might be a bit more specific for you, the yachting industry, rather than more people generically. What percentage of their salary do you think it's wise that they should be investing if they've got no immediate intention to purchase a property? And I'll put that caveat in on the end because obviously it's a substantial purchase. It requires a lot of money to fund it. So for anyone that's not yet thinking about buying a property, what percentage of their money do you think they should be squirreling away?
Well, I kind of answered that in an earlier bit, didn't I?
Yeah.
I've alluded to it.
Yeah, well, we mentioned the 10%, but I mean, maybe a bit higher for yacht crew.
Try this. Here's the point that I was trying to make earlier on. Okay, I think it's an interesting thing. How much of your money do you want to keep for yourself is a better way to look at it. Okay, and if you've got, you can have an awfully nice life in yachting, spending 10 and 20% of your salary. You can have an awfully nice time. So that suggests that it might be possible to save 80 to 90%. Yeah, which is totally impossible in the real world.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is what's so unique about the position that I keep saying younger yacht crew, and the reason I say that is because of the power over the years, you know, the way the curve changes. You know, I'm not saying you're excluded from doing well out of yachting, you know, if you're already in your late 20s, 30s, but you can do so much better out of it and get out of it a lot earlier if you start when you're younger, which is why I keep putting the emphasis on the younger people.
And you are putting yourself in control, because you will exit yachting at some point or other, whether you like it or not. And it may not necessarily be when you think it is.
When you want to be going, yeah.
So creating the ability to do so, which is what we're saying, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it. Can you see where I'm trying to go with that? You know, it's if you've got the ability to get out on your terms, you're in control of your life.
Absolutely.
And that's a pretty important thing.
It's what financial security is really all about, isn't it?
Totally right. How much money you save and build up is within your control.
Yeah. So make hay while the sun shines.
Absolutely. Okay. The single biggest cause in failure is people kind of giving up.
Giving up.
You know,
before they've reached the right sums of import and the right point in the curve.
Or they kind of go sideways, you know. We know it takes 10 or 15 years to build up something really sensible. The guys that I've talked about earlier on, the guys that have made it, they've built it by just allowing it to work and using their work and doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know this from my own experience. It's very, very important. Okay, this is a very statistical question, really. Next, not so much an opinion, but more of a hard statistic. What asset class has attained the best growth in the last decade? Now, obviously, past performance, no indication of future performance, but just a historical note. What has done very well in the last 10 years?
Well, I looked it up because I knew you were going to ask me the question, and I didn't know the answer, and so I kind of thought about it and thought, hang on a minute, believe it or not, it's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, you know, you're talking today and a lot of things have dropped very, very dramatically and are on their way back up again. Bitcoin had already had a drop. Okay. But there's this thing where it's actually halving at the moment, well, coming up to. So actually the price is stabilizing and coming higher. I'm not here to advocate it, by the way, because I don't know where it's going.
No, I mean, the question, it was a matter of history. You know, what has done exceptionally well over the last 10 years.
Where I'd have liked, the obvious place to have had your money in the last 10 years, if you take that out of the equation, would have been Amazon.
Yeah. Okay. That's,
but 20 years ago, it looked like a disaster.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. It's done very well.
My heroes in the business world are Warren Buffett. Bill Gates is a brilliant guy. Okay.
Yep.
You know, the amount of time and effort they put back into the world is huge.
Yeah.
I've yet to see Bezos stepping up to that plate.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'd noticed that as well. He's been a bit conspicuous in his absence in the philanthropy that, you know, the likes of Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and the, you know, Bill Melinda Gates Foundation, etc., which was all kind of instigated by Warren Buffett, wasn't it? Then, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he go around and start cajoling people into, you know, taking up the kind of philanthropy that he's always endorsed and very much participated in himself?
Which is what we're trying to do here, guys. Okay, I'm a great believer in motivation. It's an interesting thing, you know. Some people think it sucks. It's key here to motivate yourselves to do this. You guys are doing, and that's what we're trying to do here, guys. Help you, because unless you do something about this, we've just wasted 45 minutes.
It's not going to happen on its own.
No, is it? Is it? You know, it's unless you do something about this, we've just wasted 45 minutes on our time trying to help you do something with your life.
Yeah, it's exactly the same for what I'm doing, the mentoring, and what I find is quite almost distressing is the lack of understanding of how much help people actually need. You know, they don't seem to realize that they need help, or maybe there's just an ambivalence about it. But I think it's more ignorance and ambivalence, particularly the younger people. You know, they have no idea of how much help they would actually really benefit from.
Ian, that's so true. I mean, mentoring is tremendous. One of the things that people don't quite get about the Gates Buffett relationship is there's a mentorship involved there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of key to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I work every week with a guy called Anric Blatt in Colorado, who is a coach for financial folk like me.
Yeah.
I learn things every week that help me make this business better, to try and help make your lives better, guys. And that's what this man over here is trying to do. He's trying to help you make your lives better.
Yeah.
The trouble with it's a very adult thing to wake up one morning and say, you know what? I need some help with this. I can't do it on my own.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, I think not even can't do it, but just, you know, if once people realize that a little bit of help can go such a long way, and on my side of things, particularly the people coming into the industry, because the naivety is mind-boggling. You know, the misconception of what the reality of this industry can be is absolutely astonishing. And you know, there's so many people are just so woefully ill prepared for what lies ahead of them, and to get a little bit of help at the early stages in your career could be just such a phenomenal investment, to keeping you out of trouble in your early years. And by the time you've got through, your first few years, you're probably going to be a lot more set on your way anyway. But even at a higher level, it's a very important thing to do, and there's just so many people just don't realize how possibly how important it is, how useful it is, and particularly how much they may actually be in need of some help.
Well, isn't it very lonely otherwise? It's only children that don't think they need help, isn't it?
No.
And of course, we all know they do.
Yeah.
Isn't it? But they don't think they do.
There's certainly a tremendous lack of realization. It's very, very poignant in this industry. Do you have any idea, just again, this is just purely a statistical question, do you have any idea of what percentage of yacht crew have actually started doing something sensible with their income?
Quite a few start, very, very few finish. Guess what? Yeah, finishing is what makes it work. The two things that people get wrong, hang on. You got to start.
Yeah.
You got to start. So when's the best time to start? Now.
Early.
Today. Right now. When you finish this, decide what you're going to do next. And talk to somebody. Anybody.
Yeah.
Talk to me. Talk to him. Anybody. Talk to somebody. Okay.
Talk to somebody. Do something.
Make a plan to do something with Ian, with me. It doesn't matter. Okay. And then finish it.
Yeah.
So the answer is, I'd say 20-25% start, less than 10 finish. That's the problem.
Okay, so it's a fairly small number.
Yeah, less than 10 really finish, because they expect it to work by themselves.
Yeah,
they're looking for a quick fix. They're looking for a silver bullet. Can you see?
Yeah. It is. I mean, this industry is so unique, and the disposable income is staggering compared to most of these people's peers, and for them not to realise the potential of that in their early years is just, I mean, it's absolutely lamentable.
I'd like to think you could have a better life out of it.
Well, I mean, ultimately, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's kind of freedom.
Well, a better life on your terms. Yeah. You see where I'm trying to go? The difficulty with the whole yachting thing is it's on somebody else's terms. It's totally about...
More so than just about anything else out there.
You know, it's a bit like being in the army in a way. I'll never forget both my father and stepfather were Air Force. Okay. My father died, but my stepfather retired at 55. And he called me up one day and he said, I'd like to come and talk to you. And I said, what about? Particularly, he said, I've got to go for an interview next week for a job and I've never done that before. I need your help. That's quite interesting at 55 years old, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, because he'd been in the Air Force all his life.
Yeah.
He'd risen to good ranks and stuff like that, but he'd never actually had to compete in the real world with other people. And it shows you how terrible dependency can be if you're not careful.
This is very common in yachting. The number of people you're coming across, especially these days, that they know nothing but yachting. So they, you know, they've come in from a very early age. You know, first real job was on a yacht, and they do not know anything else. So they've lived in this completely unrealistic bubble for all of their working life, and you know, they have no understanding of what actually happens outside in the real world, you know, in the world of business anywhere else. So you know, if you do find yourself in a position like that, and you're out of a job, you could find it very, very difficult.
So anything else today, Ian?
Yes, again, we've probably, I think we've actually inadvertently answered this question, but let's just put it out formally. We've certainly, to my mind, answered this question, but we'll just say it anyway. What single piece of advice would you give to any person in their early years in yachting?
I thought about it a bit hard. For a start, decide whether you're going to do it or you're not. You know, if you're a transient coming and going, this doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
Can you see where I'm going? So in your early years, start making some real decisions. Am I sticking around in this for long enough to make it worthwhile?
Yeah.
Okay. That's big decision number one. Decision number two is kind of, well, okay, why am I doing it? And the answer is, you are not on this planet just to provide nice holidays for high net worth individuals. You aren't. You have a higher purpose in life. You need to actually decide who you are, what you want to do, and how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I find when most people do that, they start looking a bit beyond this. Can you see where I'm trying to go with that?
Yeah.
It's like, kind of, hang on. And once you've realized that, guys, then you can realize that this is a wonderful opportunity to build up the thing you will need to do that, which is enough money to create the independence that you really want.
Some financial security to be independent and have your freedom to do what you really want to do.
And you have the most wonderful opportunity to create independence from dependence. Yeah. Because the beauty of those two things is, the trouble with dependence is it can go like that. Yeah. It can go tomorrow. So you need,
as we mentioned earlier, it's such an incredibly fickle industry. Yeah. You just never know what's around the corner.
If you think it's going to last forever, guys, I promise you it won't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been there, not in yachting, but in financial services. I thought it would last forever. And I had done what you guys are all doing, spent and done, and all the rest of it accordingly. Because this gravy train was going to last forever, Ian.
It doesn't.
And it doesn't.
Yeah.
And listen, guys, I vowed from that day on, I would never, ever be dependent on anybody again. And I would spend my life helping other people become independent from dependency, which is what we do. That's just, the money is just a thing that helps you get to where you want to be. Can you see where I'm going? It's just stuff. So listen, guys, feel free to reach out from whatever means possible to either me, Yachting Financial Solutions, or what we now call the YFSOL Partnership, which is helping those guys at the other end of this, kind of the guys that have really got it. Because what we've learned is it's not just about investment, it's all about making sure you actually get to where you want to be. That's the same sort of stuff as Ian does. It's coaching and mentoring. It's really important.
So Clive from Yachting Financial Solutions, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure, Ian. Super whiz.